What up, everyone? Welcome to the Gundam Explained Show. I'm your host, Adam Blue, and joining me is how do you want to
How do you want to
this?
do this? Yeah, this is Steven, aka Midnight Hatter, by the way, joining as always. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me, of course. No, I'm wearing my How Do You Want to Do This t-shirt from back in the day when I used to be a huge Critical Role fan. I haven't
Oh,
watched Critical Role in like over 2 years, I think. But
that's
they were a
merch.
big reason that I got into YouTube creation. So,
Oh,
I have to
that's
represent.
yeah. Like we were talking about before, calling out those things that inspired us. Sometimes they don't know, what inspired, but
Exactly right. And what are you wearing tonight?
oh, this is a cool shirt. This is a Godzilla shirt that's like a metal cover.
Dude,
That's
I
just
love it.
it just speaks to me. So I was like, I got to get this. No, we're gonna have a great show today because your show was really cool yesterday as you were showing off the things that I need to jump into. And this was, the part of your Patreon is the files for the 3D printed people or the soldiers
Yeah, and
down
I
to the
think you're being very
gun.
kind because like our show last night was definitely not our best, but it was definitely some cool stuff that I showed off. But yeah, no, I
It
mean we
was,
had some
it
great
was,
discussion.
I know it was funny how we were kind of like, there's really nothing to talk about. And it kind of wasn't, but we still kind of went through. But I mean, really the takeaway is I need to work on the dioramas that I have set up. And we're talking about those little scaled miniature people are the perfect thing for all displays because it helps show off the scale of the Gundam, which I feel like that's what's missing when I look at my shelves. I'm like, okay, I'm just seeing a bunch of jagged edges.
Right, because it's all seed stuff now.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
yeah, I guess. No, that's
No,
pretty
so
cool.
no, in all honesty, you know what it reminds me of, and I was thinking about this today, is you ever play like older video games where you're
Yes.
supposed to be walking through like a city and there's just no people because
Yeah.
they didn't have the programming capacity, like they didn't have the processing power for NPCs to be walking around. And so like games like GTA 3 and
Yeah.
like the Spider-Man games like on
Right. This
PS1,
early open world.
those early open world games, those were like the first time that you had like true like NPCs around that like populated an area. um and it makes a scene feel alive. And that's, like you said, when you have tiny people, it seems like such a
Yeah.
subtle thing, but if you have tiny people in your diorama, it just actually brings
It
it to life.
Yeah, it
you know
really does. And I like the main ones I have are from which we'll talk about here in a second, the 08th MS team, the Robot Spirits accessories. I have the Robot Spirits. Yeah, I have the little people. So, and it's not people, it's Shiro. It's
can
what's
they
her
be
name?
people if they don't have noses? That's
Yeah, that's right. They're not people. They no noses. Okay. um, okay, a couple things. So Monday was the community or the G Watch, with the supporters where we all talked about G-Quux, what we thought. And what I really loved about it is not only did it help equip me for my review that went out Wednesday, but everyone had something different and unique to say that like I was like, wow, I didn't realize that, or I didn't think about that. Didn't really change my opinion, but it made me, I would say like I love it when, members of Gundam Explained want to be on the G Watch to talk. And I feel like sometimes they are on point, like they know their stuff. And I'm like, this is
it's
great.
such a great opportunity because like I
Yeah.
know that a lot of times people will be listening to the show and they're like, man, I just want to like grab Adam and Steven by the neck and like tell them that they're wrong. And G Watch is the opportunity to do that. Like
Yeah.
if you were to take the Gundam Explained show from that previous week and then the G Watch from this week and like combine them into
Oh,
one show, you get like the negative stuff from me because I'm a professional hater,
yeah.
and then you get like all of these different positive perspectives that try to change your mind. And
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that you've turned to the dark side with me on that.
Yeah. No, at the end of the day, and that's what was really cool. So even my review of G-Quux that went up Wednesday, everyone that was, I guess, commenting was like super chill, super. I feel like the way that I did the review, I felt just resonated with people. And also because even though we talked about things that, we were hating on, at the end of the day, like, it's not like it offended me. So it's not like I'm gonna be like angry about it, you know. So I feel like, hey, cat. Okay, hold on. Cat's eating plastic.
Ooh, yeah, that's not good.
She loves
Um,
plastic because I got something today that I'm going to show off here in a second.
what a perfect segue.
I know, right? So, yeah, if you guys haven't checked out my review of G-Quex, check it out. I think it's my most proud review that I've made. And I think part of it is just doing this for as long as I have. Plus, speaking with Ashley, Talos, and Ian on Monday really helped me.
And if I'm being honest, I think that it was your most like critical, like
Yeah,
literally
interesting.
critical approach. Like you and I discussed last night, like the idea of retrospectives and how typically, you know, when you look at like a typical YouTuber retrospective of an anime series or a movie, it's just like, hey man, this scene was really cool, and like I really like this, and like, you know, but you really
easy
don't
to
get to get really deep into, you know, symbolism and
Right.
and what you're supposed to take away from these stories, right? So I appreciate it. I loved what you
That's cool.
guys did this week. So
That's cool. Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, you know, more to come. I do have the Police Zaku that I'm going to review, and the Gelgoog, which I meant to start on. I started on something else. So today I did a live stream because I happened to be off today. It really worked out that way.
nice.
So I went ahead and I started building the the RX-78 F00 and the Feather Glass unit. You know, I had the robot spirits of this, and while it's cool, just it was it's more of, I have so many different variations of the RX-78 too, since this one necessarily isn't a canon thing in terms of like, it's not an animation or anything. I'm not crazy about it, but I'm shopping on AmiAmi, and they had, and I didn't spend too much to get this and get it shipped to me. It was pretty crazy.
That's
So
good.
yeah, and I was like, well, it's entry grade. And something we were talking about, like even in the chat, it's like, you know what, entry grade, especially as detailed as that, is the perfect opportunity to quickly build something and then have a canvas that you can just work on right away.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, building it, you know, of what I've done so far, I've put some armor pieces and this tons of decals, but I love it. It's a fun type of decal where it doesn't wrap around anything. It's just as simple. You push it in, use a Q-tip to kind of get it into the molding.
Well, and I think you even mentioned on stream today, you know, the entry grade RX-78 has color separated crotch.
Yeah, that's right.
The V fin in the crotch. Like we have had how many generations of high grades, and every single one of them is a sticker. I think even let me confirm this, because yes, sir. So my favorite high grade RX-78, and I think I've shared this with you on stream before. This is
Yeah.
the Gundam Front Tokyo
Oh, that's right.
limited edition high grade. It's one of my favorites because, like the entry grade, it has tons of panel lines and tons of detail, despite being a relatively simple kit. But again, no color separation in that crotchal region.
Yeah.
So,
I
you
think
know,
that's a big
that's
deal.
points to the entry grade, if I will.
Yeah, even the high grade Pale Riders, if I'm not mistaken, it is the Pale Riders that I have to go in, and there's something where the yellow, and then yellow is so hard to, you know.
And those stickers, like the way that they have them like cut, and you have to like fold them around and use a
Yeah,
toothpick to like
I
yeah.
know.
That's
It's so, yeah, when they do that, that's awesome. So yeah, not only that, but then I got this in the mail. When I talked about it one time on stream, this block cross, and it's bigger than I thought. It's
yeah.
and it looks just SD, but I wonder if it shows there's, I thought I saw it somewhere where it shows, oh, like the internal skeleton you build. It's really just a bunch of blocks, but
Yeah.
it's the armor you put on top, and then you can get other ones to put different armor on. It has a Justice.
I was gonna say, and that's also not just a Gundam thing. Like these block cross, like I think they make Transformers and like
That's
Gaio
right.
Gaigar and stuff like that. Like they make other series. Because I remember when we saw these, you and I were both kind of like, is this like a weird like Gundam specific thing? And it's like, no, this is like a whole other line of toy
Yeah.
that there just happens to be Gundam versions of, which is cool.
Yeah, because that would actually be cool to grab something that's Transformers, just mix it up or something. You know, this goes in line with things that really activate neurons. Like, do you remember snap ships?
Oh, dude, don't talk to me about snap ships.
That was a fun time when I'd walk into Target. Kids didn't care. I mean, my youngest for a little bit, he thought it was pretty cool, but I was just designing my own ships.
Well, you realize that, like, as soon as I discovered snap ships, you know what I went out and did, right?
Made your own.
No, I trademarked and bought the domain name Magmex
Oh,
because
that's right. Yeah.
because I was like, dude, if you're gonna make ships that snap together, I'm gonna make mechs that have magnets and limbs so that you can swap out the arms and legs and design your own custom
Which is
mechs.
amazing. And
Um,
it doesn't exist. And aren't you kind of still working on it in the background?
I am.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that because I did I finalized the custom mech designs. I haven't reviewed. I don't think I've shared them anywhere yet.
I think I've seen some concept art, but I don't.
Yeah.
Is that what you? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've shared them with you, but well, you know, you and
No,
I.
that would be cool because, dude, that is such a good idea. The Magmex thing, I would totally buy that up. And that's kind of like what this kind of has to it. It's like I'm building just a
Exactly.
standard frame thing, but then can add parts on. It's like the snap ships. They were kind of just standard.
Yeah,
Well,
anything that you can have a standardized connector that like
yeah, allows you to do whatever. But speaking of things, you also have something you wanted to show off too, didn't you?
yeah, you know, you asked me earlier like had I been working on
Yeah.
anything, and I did in fact do something today that I'm very proud of. And this goes to a project that I've been talking about forever. So here in my hands I have a resin cast part. It's a UV resin with RGB addressable LEDs potted inside of it. They're ready to wire up and install on the Ilfrith pre-production type custom that I'm making. And yeah, once this guy's wired up, we are going to fire off some Permit Score 4, Permit Score 8, and Permit Score 10.
Dude,
Goodness.
how
I just need-
many times did you have to iterate to get to that?
So honestly, this was my first attempt. So I'm a measure 3 times, cut
Yeah,
once kind of
okay.
guy. And so I actually, for the mold, I made several different parts to mold, and I cast 2 that did not have LEDs just to make sure that I could do it. And then 2 today with LEDs in them. This was the first one, and the second one I actually broke. So this one is
Dude.
technically the first one, and it was the only successful one.
That's pretty cool, I guess, because the odds of error as you're making more is probably going to be lower than something you're still messing around with.
Yeah, for sure. And again, you know, I stumbled across a video. I mentioned this last night on our show. Is like I stumbled across a video where another person did like a high grade Calibarn that has like the Permit Score LEDs in it. And again, it's a very like specific process. It's not really repeatable. And the idea that I'm trying to get behind with this is that I want to create something that's turnkey, that like if someone said, hey, you know, Hatter, can you send me one of these LED units? Here you go. It's ready to go.
Plug it in.
Plug it in and forget about it.
Dude, I would totally do that once you get those ready, because I'm always eyeing Calibarns. I have the Gundam Universe one, which I don't think would be worth customizing unless it was just to see if you could do it, just because it has a lot of this gummy plastic you'd have to like drill through, and it does have the that black sort of plasticky piece.
Yeah,
but it's not necessarily transparent. I think it's just super glossy.
Right.
Yeah. So you'd have to like redo.
It's funny you mention that because like as far as Calibarns go, like I got the SDCS, like the cross silhouette Calibarn. And one thing I took away from the video I watched is something that they did that I didn't even consider, but I should have, because like I'm the guy that invented putting wireless LEDs in Gundams. Is they took the what do you call it, the bit staves, like the bits that make up the shield, and they put wireless LEDs in the shield in each of the bit staves. So then like the mobile suit itself has the wired LEDs that change colors and all that good stuff. But then the bit staves, because they're wireless, you can actually like position them around the mobile suit, and then you've got the induction ring underneath it, and those light up too. Like that's
next level.
That's amazing. So kudos to them for sure.
Yeah. I wonder how often Bandai thinks about what sort of gimmicks to put in the mobile suits, but then I wonder if they think, oh, what would be too complicated. Like I'm surprised, unless, well, I guess to make money, they just make different iterations that have the different permit scores instead of just one that it changes.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me of like the Hades and exam systems, where it's like they just make swappable parts, and that's kind of it. But like even for things that aren't like, you and I talked about this before. Like I have the P Bandai Desultor from Witch from Mercury, and it comes with this little troop carrier, the drop pod, which such an awesome accessory. But like if I were going to install LEDs in this, first of all, I think they would have to be wireless, because like obviously the drop pod has to be able to come off. But then I was thinking to myself, how cool would it be if the doors of the drop pod also were switches to turn the LEDs on and off, so that when you close it, the LED turns off. When you open it, there's a connector in there. And so I went out and bought myself some copper tape. This stuff's magic, because it is conductive tape that you can use like basically for joints, and it like allows you to conduct electricity through tape. So,
dude, now you've done it. Now
there we go.
Magic tape.
Magic tape.
Dude, but that is cool, because I feel like there's so much actually that you can work with what you're already trying to do. You know how like as you work with a kit, you're trying to figure out what's a way to hide certain aspects of it. Where do we put certain things? That could probably open up.
Dude, a year ago to the day, think about it this way. A year ago to the day, I was entering the Hobby Town model contest, and I created that Bawu where I installed steel plates inside the Bawu's hand that allowed electricity to pass from the mobile suit into the beam saber, so that the beam saber would illuminate. Can you imagine how much easier it would have been if I had copper tape instead of like welding steel inside of his hand?
It's just like AI.
Just like AI.
Now you just use No, I'm just joking. No, but really cool. The copper tape thing, I was not expecting. You blew my mind yet again. Especially anyone else is like listening to this is like, oh, good idea.
I'm happy to share educational secrets with you guys.
Dude, yeah, I love it. It's awesome. Okay, the next thing, real quick, actually, something else to bring up. I had my next, and I guess I'll say this every time. I had my other anime night, Friday night. Had a long time friend of mine join. That he doesn't care about anime, but he likes to hang out. So it was cool to see him. And it's one of those situations like I had kids, then he recently had a kid, and so we kind of went a while just not talking, but we've been talking again. And so this is what we did to kind of placate people that don't care about anime. We watched the first episode of Invincible.
Okay.
And then the first episode of Bubblegum Crisis. I love Bubblegum Crisis. It's the thing I'd always see again in the video game magazines, yet I didn't know what it was about. And it teeters on the cringe anime if you don't know anime, but then it's like freaking Blade Runner story and art and Bubblegum Crisis. But like that first episode of Invincible, especially after you think it's over, I was thinking that was the second episode. So I look at my friend, I'm like, second episode is going to be awesome. They're like, oh, it's still going. And I'm like, oh, this is that scene. Yeah. Oh my God. And then I remember he's like, I did not know the show was going to go there. And I'm like, excellent.
Yeah, dude, good. I remember reading the Invincible comic for the first time, and I was blown away not only by the level of violence, like Ryan Otley, who's the artist on the book.
Yeah,
like he does such a good job of illustrating like blood and guts. Like,
oh, okay, so that kind of helped.
Yeah, I mean, like when you would read the comic book and you see like a fist tearing through like jaw and like teeth and like sinew and all this like yucky stuff coming out, very cool, very graphic.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you know, just from watching Invincible, you know that like the story takes a lot of twists and turns, and it puts you on the back foot in a way like similar to like a Game of Thrones, where it's like you can't get attached to a character because you know that tomorrow might be their last day.
Well, my biggest, I didn't really watch Game of Thrones, but my biggest takeaway, which I think is, I never watched Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones. I don't know what that says, but I find it interesting how much of it is like The Boys. Like for me, that was my takeaway. Was it's this where is
100%.
anyone good? And there's like maybe the one character you can center around in a way, that's kind of the normal, but it's funny, like. I feel like when I'm watching it through Invincible, it doesn't affect me as much as I'm watching it when I'm watching The Boys. Like, because sometimes in The Boys, it seems overdone, but that's because it is a comic book. There's no way you could portray it realistic. And when I say boys, I mean the show, because I never read the comic. But Invincible, since it's animation, not only is it just as dark, but it's almost more realistic. Because I'm already knowing I'm watching an animation. So what they're portraying to me is directly what's being portrayed, not like, oh, visual effects got this done. Or, it's very interesting. And that could be a personal thing.
No, I mean, it's like you and I talk about all the time when it comes to anime in general, is like animation is such a deliberate art form. And like, I always go back to these examples of like, in Ocean's 11, there's or even in the Avengers, like Robert Downey Jr. does the same thing. Where like Tony Stark, if you ever watch like the Avengers movies and all that stuff, like Tony Stark's always eating snacks. He's like, oh, I've got a bag of blueberries. I'm going to snack on blueberries. In Ocean's 11, Brad Pitt's character is always eating. Like in every scene, he's like eating a hot dog, he's eating chips, like all this stuff. Those are decisions made by the actor that have no bearing on the overarching story. They have no like thematic importance, but it adds flavor.
It grounds the dialogue.
It does. It does. It makes it realistic for sure.
Yeah. Especially in a shot where maybe two people are talking in a room, but maybe one of them is like doing something on the counter and the other one's like maybe flipping through TV. Like when you add those elements, it really elevates.
It's very realistic. It adds that verisimilitude to it.
There you go.
But when you do it in animation, that means that like you had to make a choice. You had to like deliberately draw these things, and not just once, but like frame after frame,
and know that it works.
And so when you see something in animation, you have to know that that's what the creator really wanted you to see. That's one of the reasons that like you said, Invincible kind of hits harder than The Boys in a way, because
no, that's interesting. And that's why I've been able to get over sometimes, like in Bubblegum Crisis, some of the frames animation are not good. But then I'm like, well, it's because they're doing this perspective thing and they're trying to show. And like, I get it, But anyway, I love doing this anime night. Again, it's a way to connect with people, and I love that I'm doing that. And what was really cool was, so wife and I went to Best Buy for fun over last weekend because we're like, let's do something. Let's not go to Target. You're less likely to buy a handful of stuff at Best Buy. Although it could be more
can't
expensive.
really carry a handful of things at Best Buy. It's like a TV.
Well, anyway, so I was like, man, that new TV I talked about, I was like, oh, I want to get a sound bar. And they had this $99 sound bar. I'm like, okay, I don't need to spend a whole lot. This seems like it could be good. Talk to the Best Buy person, and they're giving me more information that I'm like, okay. Apparently, there's this $250 sound bar. It comes with a subwoofer, and it works with my TV, in which it syncs to the speakers of the TV. So the TV speakers become the rear speakers, and the sound bar helps create a surround. And I was lucky to get it right before the anime night, because when they came over, that first scene in Invincible with the two clone guys that are outside the White House, I think it was, and then all that stuff explode, like the sound system just like. And then I remember I was texting my wife because she was upstairs. I'm like, is it too loud? And she's like, I can hear it, but it's okay. I was like, oh, sweet. Because just the home, the theater experience. So I thought that was cool. So this is going to then transition into our topics, because when I was at Best Buy, I was like, man, what if I saw a Switch 2?
What if you did?
And my wife and I were like, you know what? That's what we would use the Best Buy card for, because then we'd get the 12-month financing. It's just, we saw the sound bar, and then I think she bought some headphones, so it made it $300 because then we get the 12 months financing.
Hmm.
By the way, Best Buy is great if you're wanting to buy a big electronic purchase and you know it's not necessary, but you can plan it out. It's totally doable. We got the arcade machine that way. That's how I got the speakers or the sound system. Anyway, I get home and it's like Tuesday, Wednesday, I forget. I get an email from Nintendo and they're like, hey, we have a Switch 2 if you want to buy it. I was like, oh my God. Because you know what I was actually just looking at before that? The Big Zam Robot Spirits, where I could probably get one for $600. And so I'm thinking to myself, do I really want to get this? And then when the Switch 2 thing came up, I talked to my wife. It's like, what do we do? Because I don't want to use a credit card. I was thinking of using my credit card, but luckily I had the budget to do it, which means, no Gundam purchases for a little bit. But that really opened my eyes to how quickly I pulled the trigger on a Switch 2, but not a Robot Spirits Big Zam. And it's like, and so I asked, because I do this a lot. When I have trouble in life, I go to AI.
Yeah.
And I was looking. So apparently, and I don't know how accurate this is, but a Big Zam production cost to be 50 to 70.
I mean, if that were the case, then they would have mass produced them, right?
Well, so yeah, I don't know how many are out there because you can find them on AmiAmi, you can find them on eBay, you can even find them on third-party domestic sites that's more expensive, but they are out there to buy. So they're not sold out. What was the other thing I was looking at? So this is saying the MSRP is saying 250 to 300, which is not the case. It's 500. So that's why some of this stuff could be off, but it was accurate with the Switch 2, costing around 250 to 320. Because even Nintendo said they got slim margins on their new Switch 2.
True.
And I'm like, man, but I want the Big Zam. And so I guess bottom line, or no, it says, so yeah, you've made a logical decision, but if Big Zam still haunts your dreams like the ghost of Makuve's pride, you've got time. Either hunt it later or frame it as a goal once the novelty of the Switch 2 wears off. I like how, the AI talks about that, but
own the battlefield and the living room. I love that.
Yeah, I know. I love it. And so that was the thing, because I'm like, I love the Big Zam because that is such a unique Robot Spirits Big Zam. I want a representation of Big Zam in my house somehow. That Robot Spirits would be it. But if I'm spending that much money, there is so much more that I'm going to get out of the Switch 2, especially my family. It comes with the game. I can play my old games up, so it's like, because at the end of the day, $500 is a lot of money for people to be spending nowadays. Like, I think even my wife, thought the Switch 2 was fine because, hey, that's something that's for the family and, whatnot. But it's one of those things, like if I was someone that happened to be very wealthy, I would, of course, have like a couple Big Zams.
Well, I mean, if you think about it this way, like as Gundam explained, if you purchased a Big Zam, couldn't you write that off as a tax expense?
Yeah, that it is true. That stuff is a pain in the butt. Every year I've been doing it.
It is a Schedule C3. I know a lot of people in the chat will be like, man, like Steven and Adam probably get all their Gunpla for like pennies on the dollar. And it's like, no, it is not the case.
Yeah, there is like it's almost like you get a certain amount refunded on your taxes, but it's almost like it adds up to maybe something nice to take a chunk out. But it's not like, oh, now retroactively all my Gunpla was cheaper, all my stuff was cheaper.
Right.
And I think for a smaller creator, like me, it's more of once I'm spending more, but then I have more I'm making, then it makes sense with the taxes and all that. It's just that right now, not the.
But I recently watched a Steve Mold video, and he was talking about like writing off, like he bought, just for fun, he bought like a medical research device. It's like a water. It's like an electromagnetic water controller, and it's supposed to be used for like blood testing, and he used it to make Snake. But he's like, well, I've got a YouTube channel with 2 million subscribers, so You know,
Whoa.
I wrote it off. Like,
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. So, yeah, but I'm excited because, obviously I got Blue Gamer. And that's the other part of it. I cover games a lot. And so I'm excited about Donkey Kong Bonanza. That might be something Gundam fans don't normally say, but that's this Gundam fan. So,
well, Crossbone fans would say that.
why is that?
Well, because of the monkey Zaku, it's
Okay. I kind of like
from
where you're going with
Skullheart.
that. The pirate theme, because they fight the pirates in the Donkey Kong Country.
There you
Interesting.
go.
There's
It all
something
ties
there.
together. There's a Donkey Kong Gundam
2 yellow
universe.
bananas. I don't know. Okay. Something else I want to get into. So there's Anime Expo in LA, and they're doing this GQucks presentation that people on stage, interviews. I watched most of it today.
Very cool.
But it was very interesting looking at the chat, which you're not supposed to. But it was interesting just how negative people are. But it wasn't even any sort of like substantial negativity. It was just like and I was like, okay. But what was also interesting is seeing some interesting back and forth between known Gundam online content creators.
Personalities, you might
Yeah,
say.
personalities. Yeah, talking back and forth. And one thing was, I remember there was an argument about GQucks or how popular it is. And one of the known people was like, well, not according to Twitter. And I was like, I really don't like that. And so I looked it up. And so if we were going to say how many people on Twitter represent Gundam, and I guess let me screen share. So let's see. There's over 10 million kits sold yearly worldwide, which seems like a lot. And then there's several channels that have 100,000 plus subs. Mecha got go too, and then saying me at 8,000. So obviously they got the numbers wrong, but no. Even popular Gundam Twitter accounts cap around 10,000 to 40,000 followers. Gundam Reddit Gundam has 140,000 members, still only a few hundred active per day. Actually, let's see if that's true. I didn't even.
Well, and how many of them get banned daily?
Yeah, that's 285 members. It's off, but that's not like a lot. So 10 million for what I'm trying to get at. 10 million people buy Gunpla, hundreds of thousands watch Gundam shows globally, and maybe 50 to 100,000 people globally are active in online Gundam discourse, Reddit, Twitter combined. Then Twitter is probably not more than 1 to 5% of the global fan base at best. So, and because originally it told me 2%.
You know what? I'm going to say it. Most of Gundam Twitter has never watched a Gundam series.
I should ask if AI could pull up those stats, but
I wish that they could, because honestly, you'll see that the number of people like, I can't even name names, but like you guys know who the usual suspects are, and they'll say things like, I mean, shoot, I've never even watched Zeta, but I don't even want to because of how much people like it. And it's like,
yeah, that's
okay.
the weirdest thing to say. Yeah,
or people that like, they'll have like a Soletta profile pic, and then they'll be like, well, I never saw the original Gundam, but I played Journey to Jabro, and that's the same thing, right? So like, what difference does it make?
Yeah, I know it's weird. If someone is willing and wanting to be super critical, especially with very little depth to it, it's like, know your stuff at least, in a way. Anyway,
especially if you're gonna speak on like, because this is
I know where you're getting
like,
at.
when you and I talk about like staying positive and like, enjoy the things that you want to enjoy, absolutely. But if you're gonna base your whole online personality around something, you should probably do the due diligence to like know what you're talking about and not just kind of talk out of your backside.
Because then that's what and I guess what I'm at the end of the day, that's what that chat turned into, and was disappointing. If people were to tune into this live stream, you just see all these like, and it is the Twitter and Reddit people, because they saw the link for the live streams, and since they're there anyway, they're going to go on and then talk crap. And one guy was like, doesn't Rumble get his Zaku at the end? And then what was funny was the reply saying, no Zaku, boy.
That was nice.
That was good. So yeah, I really want to always remember this as I'm making content in the future. It's like, yeah, if anyone's trying to say, well, Twitter Gundam says this, it means nothing. It means nothing.
You should pay attention to the people who talk about the shows and talk about the products themselves versus the people that talk about the fan base and the fandom and the community, because
Yeah.
what you'll find is that very few toxic people talk about fandom and community. They talk about specifically the
What they like.
shows
Yeah,
and
the
the
things
like.
they like, they're happy about and excited.
Yeah.
Look what I made. Look what, yeah, I know what you mean.
Mhm.
Okay, so good. Got my little haterade out of the way. We should call this Midnight Hater. No, I'm joking.
That's what I'm here for.
No, because I was the one that brought it up. But okay, so we're gonna do actually some more hating. I totally forgot. We have some hating coming up in a
The
little
hate
bit.
is not done. Let it flow through you.
So until then, a couple things I want to bring up. Robot Spirits is releasing the Zagok E from 0080. Love it. This thing looks so sick.
Yeah.
And it even comes with effect parts that are like the water jet bubbles from the whatever, and the missile. Like, this thing is so sick. I can't wait. 110, but it seems like it's pretty big because the high gog is back there, unless the high gog's just short.
It could be like a forced perspective type thing. You know?
Yeah, because 110 is a lot. We've been seeing that, but sometimes they come with more accessories. But hey, times are changing. Here's the thing. Pre-orders close July 15th. And remember, I said I had already spent my Gundam budget for this pay period of mine. So if by the 15th this is still up, maybe I'd be able to, because there's another one.
Oof.
The Ashimar, I want this so freaking bad. And even when I see the 165, I'm like, that's okay. Because one, I saw pictures of it. Yes, exactly. I saw pictures of it.
Technically 2 figures.
Yeah.
Honey, you
And
don't understand. It's
yeah. And dude, I don't know if you realize how big it is, but someone posted, and it might have been in Gundam Explained, this next to 2, it was Hyakushiki, and I forget the other one, and the Ashimar is big.
He's a big guy. Yeah.
And I didn't know that. But yeah, we get the transforming it in multiple ways. Actually, it has the flight
I
mode.
didn't know that it had like a Gerwalk mode.
Yeah, I didn't know that until I saw these pictures either, or I just forgot. But like the way this thing looks, okay, yeah, like look at it with the Hyakushiki right there. That's a beefy boy. And again, it doesn't seem like it comes with a lot of accessories, but it transforms. It has a stand, which is a big deal. This one is also July 15th, last day. So I got to sell a kidney or something by the 15th. We'll see. And then, because I wanted to talk about stands, I wanted to tell you guys the Action Base 7 is really, really good. I think I have like 2 of them. They've been coming with model kits recently. Like ones that come with stands, come with these stands. I recommend this.
The Action Base 2 is kind of bad, right?
Yeah, it seems like I guess all the complaints I've ever had with an Action Base, they mostly solved it with this. The only way you would, I guess, to determine that you wouldn't use it if something seems too heavy. Like if there's some sort of wobble, I wouldn't use it because it did break off in the Cavalier. You know, it's kind of big.
Yeah.
And I had it plugged into the back. And actually, Ashley also had the same issue. So it's interesting. But yeah, so people looking for stands, I would recommend that. Okay.
And a 2-pack for 14 is not bad. Like,
it's not, because it's 17 something on P Bandai, even though it comes with G-Quack stickers, but then you would think it would be cheaper. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, this. I feel like I gotta get this. Like,
man, you are just torturing yourself with this window shopping.
I know. That's exactly what happened today. I was like, dang it, Wing, this, you know, the SD is calling to me. I think it's your fault. But the Wing, which is also your fault. This looks cool.
You know what? Honestly, I can't stand like the Endless Waltz Wing Gundam. Like the feathery wings don't do it for me. But here's what sells it. is the shield. Because in the anime, in Endless Waltz, he doesn't have a shield. But in this, that shield looks so badass. Like that is
Okay.
the
I
Wing
didn't.
Gundam Zero shield
Yeah.
from like the TV show before Endless Waltz, but like in blue, which yeah, like I'm a sucker for like alt colorways because like that shield in red is in the TV
Yeah.
show.
And then blue. So that's cool then, because I did not know it didn't have the shield. So maybe that's what's popping up for me. I'm seeing a fully equipped badass. So anyway, I might be grabbing this. That's pretty cool.
That's a good
Okay.
one.
So here's another thing. They've got, I already have this one, except in his blue with the, the Regal stuff we were talking about yesterday on your show.
Yeah.
So they come out with one in his normal suit, which is awesome. I like that these are generally cheaper because now they have them in a new, like, old school. Can I not expand them? There we go. The old school, like, blister pack.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Which they re-released Char and Sayla the same way. But here's the cooler one, and this is what's getting me excited about a whole crew. Kai.
Wow.
I know. I did not think they would ever do this. And it makes me think there's so much more.
Even the action figure has so much attitude. Like, look at
Yeah.
that pose. That is fantastic.
Yeah. Right there where it's like him. Like, and so here's the other thing. They made these bodies a few years ago, and it's now they're getting around to, like, I feel like they figured out how they can price it. And now that you have the different heads on them. And the other interesting thing too is I thought this would be such a niche thing that they wouldn't last beyond the figures that I had ordered, but they're still making them. It's pretty awesome.
And they even have, like, I don't know if you know this, but like they have like free print and play GMG like props that you can download from the website.
I did not know that, so I'm gonna have to go check that out.
It's like the official like GMG. What is it? Is it Mega House? Yeah.
Exactly.
On their website, they have like print and play so that you can print them on cardstock, and it's things like cardboard crates and like like those types of like little props that you can create scenes with. Which I've got a few of them that I've like collected over the years, but obviously I haven't done anything with them because I haven't bought any of the figures. So
yeah. I'm gonna have to look at that then because I really want to get them. Like, I took them out yesterday when you were looking at your we were looking at your minifigures. You actually had like the different guns, and I was like, oh yeah, I've got them here. And there's so many I couldn't get them out, but I love that stuff, man.
It's great, man. I love props.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna get to the hating right now. So we did that rating the other day about 08 MS team, and both of us agreed on the thumbs down on 08 MS team.
Yeah, we caught a lot of flack for that.
It's funny because ChatGPT is saying it makes total sense that you and Steven might respect 08 MS team, but still rank it low among UC Gundam series. I like just how nice and there are several thoughtful, non-toxic reasons that can fuel a great discussion, especially from the perspective of longtime Gundam fans. So here we go. It undermines the grand scale of the 1 Year War. 08 MS team zooms into a very intimate jungle warfare setting. While that's unique, it can feel too small when compared to the sweeping battles and ideologies of 0079, Zeta, or CCA. For fans invested in Earth versus space politics, new types, and technological escalation, this story might feel like it doesn't push the needle. It's a side skirmish, not a centerpiece. That could be a layer. Do you feel that when the overall feeling of 08 MS team?
Yeah, I mean, I think I could understand that. When you compare it to, and here I am breaking my own rule. Typically, my rules where it's like I don't like to disparage one thing by comparing it to another thing.
That's right.
But when I look at a villain like Guineas, what was Guineas's motivation?
Yeah, just to get a weapon out.
Just to make like a super weapon.
Yeah.
For what purpose? Like, did it? Was he trying to impress someone? Was there like a long lost love that was murdered by the Federation? Did he have a kid that was taken captive by the Federation? Like what was the purpose for him being this big bad that was so evil and so manipulative that he would take advantage of his sister and turn her into some kind of weapon? I just don't get that. Like it's a very much like kick the dog type villain.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why I mentioned before I forget about this series, just because even what it's doing, it's not a big part of, not that everything has to, but it just doesn't, like, for instance, War in the Pocket.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like what it's doing has an impact, but what happened outside has a huge impact. It was
Exactly.
the nukes getting caught before it got to the colony.
And similarly, even if you were to look at something like a video game like Rise from the Ashes, the whole like Project Astaroth,
Oh
like
yeah,
we made a biological weapon that is going to make Earth uninhabitable. Like,
that's a
because
worldwide thing.
we don't trust Big Sam, we don't trust the zombies. Like we have a super weapon that we want to use, and so like there's added stakes that don't impact the main story. And this is where it's like I resonate with this argument where it's like, yes, it does undermine the grand scale of the 1 Year War because there are other stories that contribute to it in a way that doesn't take away from everything that Amuro and Char did, but it does have like consequence that there is a reason
Yeah,
that this fight happened. Whereas like if Guineas had won, like what difference would it have made?
yeah. Exactly. It's the stakes. There's not like, what are the stakes? Yeah. Hey, shout out to Santo Bell. Have a good time off to work. Okay, see you later,
Later,
man.
hater.
Okay, so the romance feels rushed or unconvincing. The central romance between Shiro and Aina is very anime. It's funny how much ChatGPT talks like me. Some viewers feel it lacks enough development to justify the high emotional stakes, especially Shiro risking everything for her. If you're watching for grounded military realism, the sudden Romeo and Juliet twist can feel out of place, even jarring.
Ooh,
And I would,
how do you feel about that?
I agree too. I mean, even though I think, to me, I always thought it was, oh, this is a, what am I trying to say? Oh, this is a typical plot element. So it's easy to, okay, guy likes the girl, not really thinking, okay, well, wait a minute, that was pretty quick for everything to happen.
Yes, but if I may, this is the one
Yeah.
point I disagree with
Okay.
because the first episode is a very long, like drawn out battle in
Right.
space, right?
Mhm.
And the reason that they fall in love is because of the near death experience that they shared trying to survive on the abandoned ship without their mobile suits and without oxygen. And it's like, okay, so like now you have a reason for them to have grown close together because they literally had to rely on each other to survive that experience together. And it's very hard, even if you have like ideological differences, like, man, you literally just saved me. Like we would not have been able to escape that. And I think there was like which one of them had the homing device that allowed
Oh, it was in the necklace, right?
it
Or
was in
the
the necklace.
stopwatch.
Or
The
yeah.
stopwatch. Yeah.
And so it was like,
Yeah.
oh, we're gonna call for help, and Ina's like, oh, you can come with us, and he's like, hey, I appreciate it, but like I'll wait for my people to come get me. And it's like, there's very few. I think that there are less fleshed out love stories in Gundam series for sure.
Yeah, in for me, it's that I liked that part. So I'm glad you brought that up. That was a good part, but I think it's the other part about it is not understanding the background of the character for them. Well, what's going on in their whole life when it comes to the Xeon people now being on Earth? What's her whole? Is she willing to throw everything? Do we even know what she's throwing away? Especially because with Guineas, her brother, like, what is then that
Point.
relationship with the greater family? But it's kind of like with the Solari thing, with she had a kid back home. It's like he kind of knows some background. So when the character makes that choice, it's like, oh wow, she made the choice based on this. So it's like
It's a
Aina
good
is really
point.
just escaping. We're just seeing you said the villain that kicks the dog, and it's like, okay, she's
Yeah.
just escaping him. But yeah, okay, here we go. Shiro Amada isn't a strong lead for everyone. Shiro's idealism can come off as naive rather than inspiring. Compared to Amuro's growth or Camille's complexity, Shiro's moral code might feel too simple or even frustrating at times. His
Mm.
rejection of the war machine and his defiance of orders is noble, but some fans interpret it as irresponsible in the context of war. So I will say Shiro seems more like an anime character than a Gundam pilot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's bottom line to me. Like, that's how I felt about the character the whole time. Shiro's cool in that way. He's a cool anime character. But I don't think of him when I think about Gundam pilots.
Yeah. I mean, Shiro reminds me a lot of like Banagher in the way that he has like a very inflexible moral code.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, oh, I don't want to kill anybody. And the thing is, I'm okay with a character that has that rigid morality, but only when they, I don't want to say get punished for their decisions, but when there are consequences for their decisions. Like,
Yeah.
if you're the kind of person that is that inflexible and yet all of your decisions are completely justified in the end, it kind of takes away from what might be a meaningful character arc.
Exactly. And that's what Shiro lacks. He doesn't have any really interesting character arc. It's almost like one is forced upon him that even doesn't make sense because of his, because of what he did. And then there were, like, it's like character. It reminds me of G-Quux, where characters will just immediately then do something, and it doesn't make sense, but then it just goes along. And it's like, okay, all right, well, okay. Limited mobile suit variety. This could be an interesting one. While the grounded aesthetic is a feature, not a bug, it's fair to say 08MS team lacks the parade of experimental mobile suits that other UC entries thrive on. If you're into Gundam for the suit evolution, new type tech, or dramatic custom units, this series might feel underwhelming. So while that is true, I would say it goes into a very creative direction with mobile suits without it being extreme and it being badass, to where I'm fine enough with the design of the mobile suits to be like, that's just badass.
Yeah, I mean, like suit for suit, doesn't 0080 have less suits than 8th MS team?
It maybe, but I guess maybe what it's getting at here is like the different types of suits, like how they redesigned the GM sniper. You know what I mean? Or how we saw that Zagok E, and then they have the Hygog and the Camphor and the Alex. Like, those are very unique, interesting suits. And while these are
cool
two
mobile suits, it's literally just like the Gundams and the Goof. It's
exactly, and it's a mass-produced Gundam, which at that it's like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But again, I don't want to. I would say, while this might be true, the limited mobile suit variety, I think it's because it's such awesome mobile suit designs that still speak to the Gundam's grounded realism, but was still able to be a very ambitious direction to ground them more, especially after Zeta. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay, number 5. The ending is murky and was impacted by real-world tragedy. So the death of director Takeyuki Kanada midway through production caused tonal and directional shifts, especially in the final episodes. The ending tries to tie up a grounded war story and a romantic arc, and some viewers feel that it just doesn't stick the landing. But I would say, from my perspective, if I didn't know that, I wouldn't necessarily see the ship. Yeah, I would just think the kind of nature that we talked about of the characters kind of went through there's not much more you could expect,
Dude, honestly, isn't that like the Gundam tradition? Because if you think about the original 79 series, animation director Yasuhiko Yoshikazu got sick and was hospitalized for like the last 15 episodes or thereabouts. And so like Tomino stepped in and was animation directing, and like he himself will say that like the last third of Gundam was terrible. And I love seeing the interviews with Yas, where he's like, I'm sitting in the hospital bed watching TV and just like crying with my head down, like, oh, it's so bad. But like in the same vein, if you didn't know that Yoshikazu Yasuhiko had gotten sick towards the end of the original series, would you have noticed it? Or
I never noticed. I didn't know until I would read facts about it. I mean, really. And part of it too is I was accepting of bad animation every once in a while, because I got by that point I know that sometimes they focus on this or that. But again, I would say it's sad that happened, and I actually pulled up the director just so we can kind of look real quick, just to honor him, since we're talking about this. He started with The Adventures of the Little Prince in 1978, and his last one is Mobile Suit Gundam 08 MS Team. And he had some thanks in I think, was it here? Well, maybe I read that somewhere. Yeah, Ginga Vifam 13. I don't know what that is, but it was something after his death that they were able to kind of give him a shout out, which is good. So,
well, you and I I love Vifam. That's another Tomino mecha series.
I haven't seen that one yet. That's on the list of.
I was gonna say you started watching. I know you started watching.
Yes,
I
started it.
Yeah.
No, I started. There's so many I started, including Metal Armor Dragonar. Metal Armor Dragonar is actually awesome. I haven't finished it, but this is probably the furthest I've gotten into I was hoping to show some images. Into like an anime, and I love the design.
It's very Seed-like.
Yeah. Okay. So going back to this, 6, it overcorrects toward realism. Many fans celebrate the grounded combat and gritty tone, but some feel it sacrifices the mythic quality that defines UC Gundam. If you're watching Gundam for its grand space opera themes, new type philosophy, or intense rivalries, this can feel too much like Gundam Vietnam Edition. But I feel like that's okay as long as in this almost, I don't think it really has anything. I think the realism is fine.
And how real is it when Shiro Amada can dodge a point blank rocket shot at him?
Right. Where So the thing is, I have heard people complain with 08 MS Team. It's very rare, but it's like they just don't like the ground stuff.
Yeah.
When you hear it, that is what the complaint is. It's not the story. It's not the characters. It's more, not even the designs. It's more of just the ground concept. And so I would say with this, the mythic quality maybe is part of that spark that then sort of allows it to not really have anything to it. Because if 0080 was to have any sort of mythic spark, I think it's that colony is going to be nuked because of the outside stuff that we know of that's happening. And then the Alex being Amuro's Gundam, like there's all that little mythic.
Well, and 0080 is written so much like a stage play. Like there's all this dramatic irony, things that the audience knows that the characters don't. Like Bernie doesn't know that the nukes were already stopped, and if he did, then he wouldn't have to fight. And I know. And Christina doesn't know that Bernie's in the Zaku, and if she knew, then she might not have gone, full bore to try and kill him. There's so many things that are like, it's like Shakespeare, honestly.
That's why I really like 0080. It's able to be its own thing, but it still connects to everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, bonus thoughts for discussion. You could bring up how 08 MS Team might actually work better as an alternate universe Gundam story. No. There's nothing about 08 MS Team that would make it where, this would be an alternate. No, because it that's the thing. It leans into what we like about Gundam in its grounded form.
Yeah. No. I mean, in a certain way, the reason that 8th MS Team is popular is the same reason that people enjoy G-Quux, is they enjoy being tied back to the original UC story in a way.
You know what, though? I want to kind of leave with some positive notes of 08 MS Team, because another thing is, and it's kind of like in the vein of what you're saying in a way, where it's like you can watch it as an anime, and it is a fun anime to watch, because it has that intro.
Yeah.
And it sounds like the 90s. I love it. And then even how the characters are goofy, there's that goofy scene where with the village girl, I forgot her, Kika or something, or Kiki. Okay. She's like bathing, and it's a goofy scene where, I
mean, the only thing missing was like a nosebleed when he sees her naked.
But I mean, I feel like it's fun to watch. Like that's the thing. It's fun to watch, but it doesn't leave any sort of lasting Gundam impression on me.
Hmm.
Which I learned from G-Quux that can happen to me, where it's like I didn't really leave anything. Whereas I feel like pretty much all UC did. I mean, not really MS Igloo, but I kind of, uh, uh, but here's something I want to bring up real quick. Now that we're at the end, when we went through your list on Twitter with the thumbs up and thumbs down, was narrative on there?
No, narrative was one of the ones I forgot.
Okay, I'm sure you'd give that a thumbs down. Oh, maybe because it's a movie instead of a series, it kind of tightly gets to the point.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably still give it a thumbs down just for the implication of what it does for the Universal Century. You know what narrative is to me is it's very similar to Rogue One, where it's you know exactly where I'm going with this, where it's like, we're just going to remove anything that made like Luke Skywalker special and say like, oh no, it was these people that did it all along. It's like, we're going to remove anything that was important about the Universal Century. And it's like, oh no, it was actually these magical kids that were new types the whole time. And like, that was,
that's very interesting because I agree with you that they probably didn't need to do that at all. But I feel like the rest of the story being grounded in that makes everything else pretty interesting. And it's like, okay, that does work in UC. But but I think they could have left that part. They shouldn't have focused so much on it, but just focused more on the aspect of thinking that these kids are new types, so we're going to abuse them. Even though one was, but still, like, they're part of it was. But you're right; it's almost like writing over things that you didn't need to.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a good story there, and I think that sometimes it's like the classic Hideo Kojima mistake where you feel the need to explain yourself too much, and it's like sometimes you need to leave it up to interpretation in order to let the audience draw their own conclusions about what those events mean and whether or not it was true. Kind of like, I mean, you guys know how much I hate Christopher Nolan, but it's like the end of Inception is very much like a, hey, what is the end of Inception, right?
Which it's funny that you say you hate Christopher Nolan because, like, I was just thinking the other day how much I don't like his movies, but I'm so enamored by someone like him being able to get this creative freedom from a movie studio. Like, that's awesome for him. I mean, so much freedom to do whatever he wants. How many directors can do that? Maybe Denis Villeneuve.
Especially now, nobody.
Yeah. But anyway, guys, that was it. This was a fun time hating on 08th MS Team, but at the end of the day, 08th MS Team is better than the AUs. So, wait, that's a good one. Is that true? Yeah, it's and one of my favorite shelves I have over here is my 08th MS Team shelf that has. I even bought the model kits to go along with the robot spirits just to build out the team. And you know what? It has the it wasn't in the show, right? It was in a video of the flight type goof.
Oh, dude, that was actually one of my first UC model kits was the flight type goof.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
that like, I remember because I hadn't seen Char's Counterattack yet, but when I was in high school, I was talking to a buddy of mine, and we were talking about like, oh, what's your favorite mobile suit? And I'm like, well, I think mine's like the flight type goof. And he was like, well, I mean, have you seen Char's Counterattack yet? And I was like, nah. And he was like, dude, funnels. That's all I have to say is funnels. And I was like, what? That Cubile had? Like, that's so stupid. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
that's funny. I remember you told that story, but that's a good one. Yeah, because just think of knowing what some Gundam is and then discovering others and being like, oh my God, like that moment. But anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we're going to jump. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week with some more on Steven's channel and my channel. So yeah, that's it.
Have a good Independence Day.
Oh, that's right. Totally forgot.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
That is tomorrow. Yeah. That is Happy Freedom Day. Strike freedom. We'll see.